In 2015, French archaeologists pulled something out of a limestone cave that would shatter everything scientists believed about Neanderthal extinction. They found teeth, 31 fossilized teeth that didn't make sense. The dating said this individual lived 42,000 years ago, among the very last Neanderthals on Earth. But when geneticists extracted the DNA, they discovered something impossible. This Neanderthal's genetic code matched individuals who lived 105,000 years earlier. Not a lab error, not contaminated samples. Real DNA from a real person who somehow carried the genetics of an ancient lineage that should have vanished 50,000 years before he was even born. His name is Thorin, and his existence reveals a ghost population that survived in complete isolation while the rest of his species was disappearing. What you're about to hear challenges the entire narrative of how Neanderthals went extinct. A narrow road cuts through the Rhône Valley in southern France, winding between limestone cliffs and a slow-moving river below. Above the water sits Grotte Mandrin, a shallow cave carved into pale stone by wind and time. For thousands of years, this shelter watched ancient hunters come and go, its entrance facing south to catch winter sun. In 2010, archaeologist Ludovic Slimak arrived with a team, shovels, and a mission to map every layer of sediment and every fragment of bone. The valley's location wasn't random. It served as a natural corridor, a crossroads where animals and people moved between the Mediterranean and Ice Age Europe. Excavations demanded extreme patience. Each season, Slimak's team peeled away thin bands of wind-blown sand and silt, revealing occupations stretching back more than 80,000 years. The layers ran like pages in a book: fireplaces, flint tools, scattered bones of horses, reindeer, and bison. More than 60,000 stone artifacts surfaced. Over 70,000 animal remains emerged in careful succession. The sediment sat undisturbed for millennia, preserving traces of Neanderthals and, in some levels, the first modern humans to reach Western Europe. Then, in 2015, near the cave's entrance, they found something that would change everything. The team uncovered a cluster of teeth and bone fragments pressed into a shallow depression beside bedrock. The context was unmistakable. This was the post-Neronian layer, the last Mousterian phase before modern humans arrived in the region. Slimak halted all digging immediately. They sealed the trench and documented every detail with precision. Strict protocols governed the removal. Each find was bagged, logged, and sent under guard to the laboratory. In the cave's subdued light, the significance became clear. This wasn't just another fossil. The Rhône Valley's ancient crossroads had yielded a Neanderthal whose story was still locked inside his remains. 31 fossilized teeth survived between 42,000 and 52,000 years in the cave's cool darkness. The nickname Thorin, borrowed from Tolkien's tales, gave him individuality. This wasn't just a specimen. It was a person who once chewed, bit, and lived in a world that no longer exists. His dental anatomy preserved both daily struggle and rare genetic fortune. The crowns were ground down from years of gnawing tough roots and sinew, edges chipped and pitted by grit in the Ice Age diet. One molar was extra, a supernumerary tooth, a genetic quirk rarely seen in Neanderthals, but the real value lay hidden inside, and what scientists would find there defied every expectation. Each tooth root encases a chamber of dental pulp, soft tissue once threaded with blood vessels and nerves. This pulp acts as a natural vault, shielding DNA from bacteria, water, and the slow decay that erases most ancient life. Even as bone weathers and crumbles, pulp can preserve genetic traces for tens of millennia. For scientists, these teeth were time capsules, offering a chance to recover a Neanderthal's genetic code nearly intact. Inside the ancient DNA laboratory, rules are absolute. Every surface gleams under ultraviolet lights, wiped down until not a single stray cell remains. Researchers wear full bodysuits, gloves, and face masks before stepping through the airlock. Any trace of modern human DNA could overwhelm the fragile genetic material locked inside Thorin's teeth, so even tools are sterilized between each step. The team selected a molar and placed it under a microscope. Using a precision drill, they bored into the root, collecting fine powder from the dental pulp chamber hidden deep within. This powder held the only cells likely to preserve ancient blood, and the Neanderthal's genetic code. The sample transferred into a sterile tube, sealed, and moved to a separate clean room for extraction. Every move was tracked. Who handled the sample, when, and how. Even the air was filtered. But what came next would reveal something no one was prepared to explain. Extracting DNA from a specimen over 40,000 years old is a race against decay. Any surviving genetic fragments are short, broken, and mixed with vast amounts of bacterial and fungal DNA. The challenge is isolating endogenous Neanderthal DNA from exogenous contaminants that seeped in over millennia. Modern sequencing machines read millions of DNA fragments at once, but only a small fraction belong to Thorin. The rest is noise. Microbes, cave sediment, occasional stray cells from modern handlers. Authentication relies on measurable patterns. Genuine ancient DNA carries distinctive damage at strand ends, molecular scars left by centuries of chemical decay. The team quantified these patterns, calculating the ratio of endogenous to exogenous DNA for each sample. In Thorin's case, the percentage of authentic Neanderthal DNA was surprisingly high, a rare stroke of luck, making full genome reconstruction possible. Age estimates underwent a battery of independent tests, each designed to rule out error and confirm the timeline suggested by the cave's layers. Radiocarbon dating targeted collagen in animal bones found alongside the teeth. Optically stimulated luminescence measured when sand grains last saw sunlight. Bayesian modeling synthesized these results with the cave's stratigraphy, producing a window from 52,900 to 48,500 years before present. Every method pointed to the same conclusion. Thorin belonged to the very end of the Neanderthal era, but his DNA told a completely different story. Outside laboratories ran their own tests, repeating measurements on fresh samples and cross-checking every number. The research team submitted findings to Cell Genomics, one of the most respected journals in the field. Peer reviewers combed through methods, looking for contamination or statistical manipulation. The data held up. On September 11, 2024, results became public. The announcement included Thorin's genome, his age, and the paradox at the heart of the discovery. When population geneticists compared Thorin's DNA to their vast database of ancient and modern genomes, the results refused to fit. His genetic signature matched Neanderthals who lived more than 100,000 years earlier, not his supposed contemporaries in Europe or Asia. The database flagged his genome as an outlier, a mismatch that couldn't be explained by laboratory error or faulty dating. Geneticists began comparing Thorin's DNA to the catalogue of Neanderthal genomes collected from sites across Eurasia. The results were startling. Thorin's lineage had split from other Neanderthals around 105,000 years ago. For nearly 50,000 years, his ancestors remained genetically isolated, their DNA evolving along a separate path, even as other Neanderthal groups mixed and migrated across the continent. This timeline stretches further than the span from the first cave paintings to today. But how could an entire population remain hidden for so long? Population genetic models using coalescent theory mapped the divergence as a precise moment deep in the past, long before the last glacial advances swept across Europe. Thorin's genome became a molecular time capsule, carrying the genetic signature of an ancient population untouched by waves of gene flow that shaped the rest of the Neanderthal world. While late Neanderthals from places like Vindija Cave in Croatia showed a patchwork of DNA from distant relatives, Thorin's genetic code stood apart, echoing the deep past. This ghost lineage, invisible in the archaeological record, surfaced only through the molecular clock embedded in Thorin's DNA. No tools, bones, or artifacts hinted at its existence. Only the slow accumulation of genetic differences, measured in thousands of generations, revealed his group had been living on the margins, cut off from the great currents of Neanderthal history. The mismatch between his ancient genome and his late survival forced scientists to reconsider how many hidden populations might have existed, their stories locked away until the right specimen in the right place could be found. Thorin's genome reads like a record of isolation. When researchers mapped the sequence, they found long, uninterrupted stretches where both copies of his DNA were identical, clear evidence of generations spent in a small, closed group. And the implications of this isolation were devastating. These runs of homozygosity are genetic footprints left by repeated mating between close relatives, a pattern that stands out starkly against the patchwork genomes of other late Neanderthals. In population genetics, this points to a tiny effective population size, where the number of breeding individuals dropped so low that diversity couldn't recover. For Thorin's people, each birth drew from a shrinking pool of ancestors. Every child inherited the same ancient code, generation after generation. The molecular tests for admixture told a second story, one of complete separation. Scientists used statistical tools to scan genomes for fragments of foreign DNA, searching for telltale signatures of mixing between populations. In late Neanderthals from elsewhere in Europe, these tests routinely pick up traces of Homo sapiens, a genetic echo of brief encounters as modern humans spread across the continent. But Thorin's DNA returned a result of 0. Not a single segment matched the pattern of modern human ancestry. His lineage remained untouched, genetically insulated from the newcomers who would soon dominate the landscape. The combination of extensive homozygosity and total absence of Homo sapiens DNA paints a bleak picture. Cut off from the wider Neanderthal world, denied the genetic refresh that comes with outside contact, their survival depended on a fragile balance. Any new disease, climate swing, or food shortage could push such a population over the edge, and eventually, something did. Neanderthal extinction no longer reads as a single sweeping disappearance. Instead, evidence points to a patchwork of fates, some groups merging with incoming Homo sapiens, others fading in isolation, and a few, like Thorin's lineage, vanishing with their genetic secrets intact. The traditional story, where modern humans absorbed the last Neanderthals through interbreeding, now stands beside a more nuanced reality. Today, people of non-African descent carry 2% Neanderthal DNA in their genomes, a legacy of mixing with certain Neanderthal groups during ancient migrations, yet this inheritance comes from lineages that, unlike Thorin's, didn't remain genetically secluded. Thorin's ghost lineage left no trace in modern human DNA. His people's story ended in their Rhone Valley shelter, their genetic code preserved only in the pulp of ancient teeth. This realization reframes extinction as a mosaic, some populations persisting through contact, others through stubborn isolation. The survival of Neanderthal ancestry in us comes from those who mingled, while entire branches like Thorin's simply disappeared, their contribution lost except for what ancient DNA can recover. The search for other ghost lineages is far from over. Researchers are combing caves across southern France, hoping to find more individuals who might fill gaps in this fragmented record. Each new discovery has the power to reshape the story. As sequencing technology accelerates, each new genome forces us to rethink what we know about extinction, survival, and connection. Thorin's discovery demonstrates that prehistoric human history was far more complex than previously thought, with hidden populations surviving in isolation even as their species approached extinction. The boundaries of what can be known keep expanding with every fossil pulled from cave sediment. Ancient DNA now exposes hidden branches in our own family tree, ghost lineages lost for tens of thousands of years. The story isn't just about Neanderthals, it's about the complexity we still carry, and the secrets our own DNA may yet hold. Thorin lived between 42,000 and 52,000 years ago, walking the same valley where modern humans were arriving from the south. His teeth, ground down from chewing tough Ice Age food, his extra molar marking genetic isolation, his DNA carrying 105,000 years of ancestry, all of it survived in a shallow cave, carved by wind and time. How many other ghost populations are waiting to be discovered? How many lineages vanished, leaving no trace except what's locked inside fossilized bone? The Rhone Valley gave up one secret after 50,000 years of silence. What else waits in the dust of forgotten caves?